Check. Oh yeah, we're good. Good. Check, check, check. Check, check. See, his mic is quieter. Check.
This is good. This is good.
Check, check, check. See, this does not seem as
All
loud.
of them are good.
This does not seem as loud. So what can I do on my setup here that's different between mic and speaker? Test, 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 test. Test, 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 test. 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 48. Check, check, check. All right, what if we... Check, 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 check. Check, check, check. No, I won't.
We're going to start in 1 minute.
Is it time?
Move this around again.
I don't know what it's,
Trying to see if we're paying attention.
I don't think they know where it's.
1 minute, guys. You're ready? You're good? You're good, 1 minute?
Oh, that's really pretty. Thank you there, Jeff.
Yep.
I put my glasses on, I can see it now.
I can give you one.
Oh, good on your lapel. You notice that the men on TV are wearing brooches?
Yeah.
That's just way past. I wish they'd leave the girl stuff to the girl and the guy stuff to the guy. But even, Steve Harvey had on diamonds, a diamond brooch
ready,
on
Greg?
his lapel.
Good.
The flag is fine.
Ready?
Actually, there's
Ready?
a lot of them out there.
Ready? Ready?
I think I got 5 or 6 of them. I think Mama had one in her jewelry box. If I run across it, I'll bring it to you.
Ready? Good evening. I call to order a special meeting of Town of Holly Ridge on June 16, 2026 at 6 p.m. Welcome, everybody. We are glad to have Pastor Hildebrand from Victory Baptist Church here to do our invocation. Pastor, thank you for being here. Floor is yours.
Let's pray. Father, we come to you tonight and we want to say just thank you. Thank you for the opportunity we have in this free country to come and assemble together and to make decisions on a local level. Father, I pray that you just guide these council members tonight as they bring forth this budget, and would you just help them make wise decisions and understand that the money that they are going to be budgeting out is not their money, it's the people's money. And Father, may they make the very wisest decisions they can for the better of this town. And Father, I pray that you help all of us to understand the leadership of this town has decisions that have to be made. But Father, may everything be said here today be glorifying and honoring to you. And Father, may we not forget it's all because of your Son that we are even able to be here. And Father, I pray that you are just glorified and honored. Help us, lead us and guide us. These things we do ask you, Son Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to item number 3. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Hines,
Second.
second by Mayor Protem Hall. Any discussions? How do you vote?
Yes.
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 Okay, the agenda is approved, and hopefully all the audience have the agenda. Item number 4, I'm just gonna take a couple minutes to read the statement for you. Again, good evening. Councilman Massiano is not here due to travel. Again, thanks for all the people that are joining online for our special meeting. I'm just gonna make a few comments. Some of this you're gonna hear again from the town manager, but I'm just gonna go over it. The purpose of this meeting is to fulfill our legal responsibility to hold a public hearing on the budget posted for the citizen in accordance to our constitutional requirement. The council has had several meetings during the past few months. Budget development, as you know, we had property reevaluation earlier this year, and it has been the subject of many discussions and concern. Subsequently, following the reevaluation, North Carolina Bill number 889 was introduced in the legislature by Senator Lazaro to delay property revaluation for 1 year. This bill passed the Senate and just most recently passed the House. This bill for property reevaluation is at 2020 level currently. And it will be delayed at least for 1 year. This bill affects 12 counties and all the municipalities within those counties in North Carolina. Due to uncertainty, the city government and this council has had to develop alternate options for alternate budgets, prepare for all cases. All counties and municipalities, all 12 of them, have the same uncertainty and they are dealing with in the same manner. The current approved bill is on governor's desk. It went to governor's desk on June 10th, and he has 10 days to sign it or veto it. If it's signed, then obviously we'll go back to the old evaluation. If it's vetoed, it will be returned to the House for legislators to further make changes. In any case, if the veto is overridden by the House, again, we will have the new, if the veto is overridden, we go back to the old evaluation, and if it's not, then depends on the timing of the approval. We still have to have a budget by July 1. Okay, so we'll continue with having budget options. Please understand that our county and all 11 other counties and municipalities are having the same issue. So public hearing tonight is to present multiple options and associated budget based on the designated tax rates. Now the town manager and our finance director are here trying to say the questions, and they'll do the presentation. So with that, I'm going to go to item 5, which is the subject of tonight's meeting. And that is the subject of our public hearing. So I'm going to read the,
Mayor,
I'm going to read the discussion. I'm going to read 5A.
right. So the presentation is usually done outside of the public hearing.
Okay. So you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. So to follow up with what the mayor said, this budget year has been like none other. We have had 5 budget workshops. This is our 6th meeting on the budget, and we still most likely have at least one more to go. So with that, I'll just jump in. So the proposed budget that was released in the budget message, we had 2 scenarios. We had one with the new evaluations and one reverting back to the old valuations. So the first one I'm going to talk about is option 1, which is with the new valuations. That budget totals just over 11 million. Last year, in order to maintain the tax rate at 34 cents, the town voted to pull 1.3 million out of our fund balance reserve, which equates to approximately 13 pennies on the tax rate. This budget cycle, as Mayor said, has been affected greatly by the unique circumstances that are outside of the traditional budget development process. So in response to that uncertainty, the town council is evaluating 2 budget scenarios, and that is the subject of the public hearings tonight. Just real quick, going to go over the process of developing the budget. So the first step was to update the strategic plan. Then we received the departmental request with their justifications, and those department heads had to meet with the finance officer to go over those requests and see if they were able to be included. We had a total of 5 budget workshops, 2 proposal scenarios. Today, the public hearing was scheduled. It's being held today. The council can make additional changes, and then most likely we will have a special meeting to adopt the final budget. So the 2 key components we have of a municipal budget are the revenues and the expenditures. So revenues include property taxes, prior year taxes, interest on taxes, vehicle taxes, sales and use tax, ABC revenue, Onslow County fire tax, utility franchise tax, permitting, parks and recreation, rentals, and when we have real property to sell, it includes those lot sales, which you'll see in both scenarios. We do have 1.8 million proposed in lot sales as a revenue. On the flip side of that, we have the expenditures. So that includes administration, police, public works, finance, parks and recreation, garbage and recycling, public building and grounds, legal services, audit services, IT, the utilities, the debt service, which are the payments on the loans that we take out, and fire services and fire medic services. Sorry, my clicker just quit working. Yeah, please. Thank you. Okay, so revenue projections, those are based on historical data. Usually we look somewhere between 2 and 5 years of actuals and budgeted amounts. We also look at state projections. The League of Municipality puts out a budgeting guide every year. They update the numbers, so that tells us if sales and use tax is projected to increase or utility franchise, which way that's going to go. And they update that, send it out to the municipalities. It's a service they offer. So we do use that document when we look at projecting revenues. And then we also rely on the Onslow County Tax Office to update the tax scrolls. So that would include, this year is an anomaly because of the evaluations, but it would typically include updates of the new growth. So that 7 to 8% that we seem to maintain year over year. So that adds just a little bit of increase each year. Expense projections, those come from the department head requests, historical data, budgeted versus actuals, and then we gather quotes on services and purchases to include in each budget proposal. Highlights of budget scenario number 1. So tax value of real property is right at 1.1 billion. This tax value generates just over 3.8 million in tax money. This scenario assumes a 97% collection rate. In scenario 1, the tax rate is proposed to remain the same at 34 cents per 100. The reason for this is because the 1.3 that was pulled out last year from the reserves in order to maintain the tax rate. So last year we had discussions when we took on full-time firefighters and full-time fire medics that at some point the tax rate would have to increase to support those services. It's basically adding a whole additional department with no increase in tax revenue. So that 1.3 covers the fire service. It covered some one-time purchases like heavy equipment or bucket trucks or what's another example of? Yeah, the renovations were included in that for the Penslow building. So again, that equates to approximately 13 pennies based on this evaluation, because a penny would be worth $117,900, and that represents approximately a $41,000 increase over last year. This scenario also includes $132,000 approximately out of the fund balance, and that is typically for those one-time purchases. Holly Ridge tax rate by year, so over the last 8 years, other than last year, we have decreased our tax rate every year. Every time there is an increase due to the tax scrolls being updated with growth, increase in properties, annexations, whatever the case may be, the tax rate has continuously decreased every year. And that's when everyone around us continues to go up. This scenario, again, proposes a 34-cent tax rate. This is with the new evaluation. This is the breakout of each department and what percentage the revenues would come in for. So as you can see, the property taxes are approximately 37% of the overall revenue of the town. Our next largest would be the local option sales tax, in line with the lot sales, which that's an anomaly, because after those sales, we will not have any additional property in Camp Davis. Highlights of budget scenario number 2. So this scenario rolls back to the old valuation, and the tax value of real property would be estimated at $800 million. This generates 2.7, might as well say $2.8 million in tax revenue. This scenario also assumes a 97% collection rate. The town council has discussed the tax rate being proposed to increase to 36 cents per 100 of your valuation. That's a 2-cent increase due to the values being rolled back. Again, that's due to that 1.3 pulled out of savings last year. For the upcoming fiscal, a penny in this scenario is worth $80,000, and it includes a fund balance of almost $1 million. So that is taking that from the reserves. Again, this would be the tax rate by the year. So you'll see it continuously drop until last year it was held, and then an increase of 2 cents. This is just a breakout again of the proposed revenues. So in this scenario, the property taxes would only account for approximately 28% of the overall revenues, with the lot sales coming in second. And then local option sales tax is right behind that with 15%. Proposed expenditures. The expenditures don't necessarily change from scenario to scenario. The town council went through and removed anything that was not absolutely necessary. So this budget presented is pretty much bare bones. Later in the presentation, I'll have slides showing exactly what each department was approved for, and it's definitely not a typical year. So in this, again, the police department is 19% of the overall budget. Parks and Recreation is approximately 15%. And then you have all your administration, public buildings and grounds, grants that have to have the money spent, and then it's on a reimbursable contract. So typically those funds have to be held and accounted for, because we have to spend the money in order to get the money back, typically on most grants. So highlights of both scenarios. So the things that did not change from scenario to scenario. So personnel, both scenarios include a 2% COLA and up to a 1% merit for town staff. The retirement percentage that is dictated by the state increased to 17.10% for police and 15.14% for general class employees. The only additional employee proposed in both scenarios is a front desk position within the administration department. We propose a $500 per employee increase for the health savings accounts to help tackle some of those rising medical costs. And there was also a state mandated increase for health insurance for all employees, and that's statewide. So that's teachers, that's anyone within the North Carolina State Health Plan. In the police department, there's funding for the purchase of new rifles, funding to construct a building for storage at the town shooting range, and as a life safety issue, purchase of a new in-car radios for each vehicle. Over in Parks and Rec, we have the purchase of a new gator, purchase of a one zero-turn mower, allowance for the purchase of tools. And these 3 items are needed because last year a specific public works employee was added for Parks and Recreation. So when he has his rotation and has to mow the park or weed eat the park or whatever it is that he's doing, he has to go and take one of the public works mowers, which puts them down a mower. So in the interest of efficiency, it's best for him to have his own tools, his own tools of trade. So these are also those items that I mentioned that come from fund balance because they're one-time purchases and they're not continuous operating expenses. We have 1 million allocated towards the municipal park project, which is the PARTIF grant, where we spend approximately 1.6 million and we receive 500,000 back. And then we also have 2 new HVAC units budgeted for the community center. The units that are currently running are the original units. They've never been replaced. Over in the fire departments, we will continue to fund the fire medic program as a stopgap to the level of EMS service provided by Onslow County. We will fund the annual lease amount on the property behind the fire department for sleeping quarters for the firefighters so that they can maintain 24-hour coverage. And we will also maintain the funding level of $60,000 to Turkey Creek Fire Department. Public Works, 2 zero-turn mowers will be purchased, a contract for 30-yard roll-off. So that is, each time they have a large project where there's any type of demolition or there's large items that need to be disposed of, our Public Works guys are having to take the dump truck or whatever equipment out to the landfill. So with this 30-yard roll-off, it's a minimal cost in order to keep our Public Works in town, not spending fuel going back and forth to the landfill. There was a proposed skid steer and trailer for this upcoming year. Town Council agreed to purchase it out of our current year through POW bill funds, so that POW bill funds are state allocations for the maintenance of any of our streets. That one looks a little weird. Community engagement, so we continue to have the movies in the park. The annual Shred Day is planned for a Saturday in July. We'll continue to have pickleball, toddler time, summer camps, instructors coming in and doing various classes like the babysitting class. The senior field trips will continue. They've been a really big hit. This past year, you may have seen the town doing budget amendments in order to move funds that are collected for the senior field trip from a revenue to an expense so that the Parks and Rec can continue to do additional programming, since that's basically a reimbursement back to the town for those costs. We plan to still hold the Easter egg hunt, the Bee Festival, the Liberty Festival, and Hometown Heroes event. That does include the fireworks, which are budgeted, and Hometown Christmas are planned. Capital improvements, 2 cents of the existing tax rate will be set aside for street maintenance and repair in the amount of $235,200. So that'll go into the balance forward that is included on the streets department. An allocation is included for the renovations to Town Hall and finish the renovations to the Pinslow building. So the next slide will show, we held a second meeting, or gosh, no, that was our 5th meeting. This is our 2nd meeting this week. We held a meeting yesterday for the town council to discuss the various impacts on our fund balance and how that correlates to our tax rate. So what we take from the savings today, it definitely matters tomorrow, especially when we're looking at taking out loans, bond notes, financing the different purchases. We need all of those things, but we also have to keep in mind of our cash flow throughout the year, because taxes come in at certain times of the year. Your local sales and use tax comes in quarterly. Your utility franchise tax comes in quarterly. So we have to be mindful when we're spending down the town's reserves. So this is the scenario with scenario 1. So this is where the penny of tax is worth $117,900. So if we include our investment account, which is approximately 1.1 million, and we leave our tax rate at 32 cents, then our reserves will drop to roughly 29%. So the town council just voted to approve a fund balance policy that sets that minimum at 32%. You'll also see at the top that if we count the investment, then we can maintain the tax rate. It'll be approximately 40%, but we'll also, if we get in a bind with cash flow, we would have to pull out that investment. And right now, it makes us approximately $40,000 a year. So the goal is to have enough money in investments that counteracts any need for a tax rate increase. This is a scenario for scenario 2. The penny is worth 80,000. And again, you'll see, so as the tax rate increases, the fund balance appropriation decreases, and the reserve increases. So it's really a balance between how much do you pull out of savings or how much do you increase the tax rate. I say all of that to say that with both scenarios, now we also have a third and a fourth in the event that we have to manage the cash flow. So that became a topic of conversation yesterday, and Town Council was able to see the importance of maintaining that fund balance and maintaining the cash flow throughout the year. So we now have a third option, which is 35 cents. This one is based on the old values, the 2026 values. So this would increase to 35 cents. That'd be a 1 cent increase, but it still remains well below historical levels. Again, breakdowns of the proposed revenues. This would generate approximately 38% of property taxes for the part of the entire budget, so roughly 3.9 million. Proposed expenditures, you can see our largest expenses again are the police department, Parks and Rec, and non-departmental. The fourth scenario is an increase to 37 cents, and that is based on the 2025 values.
2020.
And so this would be an increase of 3 cents, but again, that 3 cents is so that we do not drain the reserves with operating costs. This scenario would produce approximately 3.3 million in property taxes, which accounts for 32% of the overall budget. The local option sales tax and most of the other numbers remain the same. They're not affected by the valuations. Expenditures, again, in this scenario, they remain pretty much the same. Police Department, 1.9, Parks and Rec, 1.5, non-departmental, 1.1. So the conclusion, I say all of that to say that the Town Council will most likely not take any action on the budget until a final decision is received from Raleigh. This year is an anomaly. I've never experienced it. And so pending a decision on Senate Bill 889, as Mayor stated, right now it's on the governor's desk. So we'll see if he signs it or vetoes it, and we'll have to go back to the drawing board. So tonight, we'll receive public comments on the 2 proposed scenarios that were in the budget message, along with if anyone has anything to say or make a comment on the additional Plan B 2 scenarios. But the Town Council, up until the adoption of the budget ordinance, they can continue to make adjustments, and that includes adjusting your revenues, your expenditures, your tax rate, and so on. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Heather.
You're
Very
welcome.
thorough. And those slides will be available
Yes, sir.
for the citizens to look at.
Yes, sir.
Okay, going to item 5. This is where we have public hearing, discussion of possible approval of the Town of High Ridge proposed. This is really, we are not going to do any pre-approval tonight. but this is to discuss and hear from citizens the budget proposed for fiscal year 26-27, fee schedule and basically look at possibilities or areas where we would adopt a budget by the end of the year. So at this point, we are going to open up for public hearing. May I have a motion to go to public hearing? Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Hall,
Second?
second by Councilman Barton. Any discussion? How do you vote?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Okay, we are in public hearing, and let me just make a comment about public hearing. At this point, the council opens the floor for those who wish to address it. You have 3 minutes to address any issues under this council control. Please address the council as a whole, not any individual member. The council members may respond to your public comments and questions during the individual comment section, comment at the end of the meeting. And thank you, and town manager can read the names.
Yes, sir. Miss Melissa Steblin.
Good evening. I am up here tonight because I want to get an understanding of something, okay? First of all, I'm not against, and I want to make sure everybody knows this, law enforcement at all. My husband's been in law enforcement for 40 years or more, okay? But I have a problem when I'm seeing the increases throughout the years. In 5 years, the police department has increased $1 million. This last year alone, $700,000, okay? I don't know why we're in a small town of less than 6,000 people. Our crime rate is extremely low compared to the state and national level. What matrix or rubrics we're using in order to put this type of money into our police department. But I'm also seeing where we're not getting enough into our emergency services. We're not seeing the same value going there. We have an ambulance that we can't use. We had another issue a couple weeks ago where we needed one, where we didn't have one. It just seems like we're not putting the money, that type of money, in the spots they're supposed to be going. Now, if we're not going to fight Onslow County to try and get an ambulance service, then something else needs to be done. But I'm seeing these huge increases in the police department, but we're not seeing the same level on our emergency services, which we need here in Holly Ridge. And I really think you need to take another look at this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sippel. Town manager next.
Brian Thaler.
Good evening. First, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate everything that you're doing on behalf of the community. Trying to balance a budget with so many moving parts has got to be very, very challenging. I do have some questions, and obviously you can't answer them directly at the moment, but if I'm not mistaken, projected revenues for this current fiscal year were about $2.72 million. Based on the options that you've come up with, option number 1 is a 42.6% increase in property taxes. Option 2, keeping the old rates and the 0.36, is a 2.7%. And if my numbers are correct, option 3 is a 46.8% increase in property tax revenue. Number 4 is a 21.24% increase in property tax revenue. I understand you don't want to deplete fund balances, and I get that. You need to have reserves in place. Life happens. But those are huge increases. I just don't understand why there's even a thought of increasing taxes for taxpayers at that rate. I live in Summer House, which is probably a more affluent community, so there will be more taxes that have to be paid. I know there are a number of our neighbors that are having problems already paying some of the increased amounts. And I know that there has been some talk about de-annexation, and there has been some talk about potentially the town of Holly Ridge taking over the roads. Well, if you're budgeting $200 and some thousand for road repair, there is no way that you can all afford to add on the expenses for their Summer House's roads. Even if we were able to bring them up to Department of Transportation standards, there's just no way. You have no room in your budget. I would hope the council would weigh this decision, carefully. Obviously, you have, but I mean, these are huge increases that you're proposing, and I would hope that you all would be able to find some type of alternate solution without draining fund balance, because you need that too. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Tim Sheeta.
So I'm going to dovetail on Melissa's a little bit. And I sent the question, and we went back and forth on emails. It goes back to the ambulance, emergency services. Again, I get that the fire medic is the fix for the ambulance service. My concern is that, as we raise taxes, I already pay taxes to the county for an ambulance that doesn't really exist. Now I pay taxes to pay for fire medics that still can't transport. And then the fire medics respond out to the county to people who don't pay the tax. So I'm subsidizing that response in the county. My concern is, what do we get back for that? If I'm paying the tax, why isn't the town charging that person when they go out into the county? I understand mutual aid. When it's broken down in the chart, there are different breakouts. It's not mutual aid. Last month, 25% of the fire medic calls were out in the county. But I'm subsidizing that. So I'm paying twice for a service that I still don't get. I don't have an ambulance. I'm paying the county tax, not getting an ambulance. Now I'm paying for a fire medic. There is no ambulance. I get that's why. But then why are we then paying that tax and then going out in the county to respond to people that don't pay the tax? Want to help people, but at a certain point when we're talking about raising taxes, we need to make cuts. We all need to make smart decisions, just like in my family. You guys want to raise taxes to make new purchases? I wish I could. You know what happens when my budget gets nicked? I got to cut something. And that's the way you all need to think about this. You can't think about this as what we might want or what's going to help us. We got to make it work, just like in your house. You make it work. You can't just say, I want to raise. You can't just get more money. You make it work. That's what we need to do. We all talk about needs and wants. We need to be a little bit more discretionary, or a little bit harder looking at those as to what our needs and wants. We all make things work. We're going to have to do it here. So when you raise the taxes, I now have to take away something to keep that same standard of living. But you all are just raising taxes, and you're not keeping the standard of living. You're just raising the taxes on the backs of us and doing what needs to be done. I'd love to be able to do that. I think you really need to look hard for more cuts. Keep it where it was. It's going to hurt. It's not going to be perfect. You might have to cut some things. You might have to change some things, but that's exactly what the residents have to do. We're the same way. We're going to make cuts when you raise our taxes. So I just recommend and I implore you to keep them the same.
Thank you, Mr. Sheeta.
No others.
No other. Anybody from the floor has any comments they want to come to the mic for?
If you could, please come sign in. Thank you. Thank you. This is Jason Roper.
I'm sorry.
What was that, Heather?
Jason Roper.
Could you say your name, please?
Jason Roper, R-O-P-E-R. So yeah, I'm going to kind of just dovetail off of what the others have said. I apologize, I just saw the budget, just took a look at it tonight. I didn't plan on getting involved because I planned on selling. I'm over in Summer House. Now we're staying, so now I'm going to get involved. Just a quick glance through this. Where did you guys cut from? Everyone else has cut their budgets to make things work. We have increase in the police by over almost $1 million in police, $700,000. And again, we don't have an ambulance. Why do we need a police force of the size that we have and then continue to increase that with the size of our community. Makes no sense. Where is any of the cuts from last year to this year? Everything's an increase. The governing board, $87,000 proposed increase just on the governing board. Let's see what else. Again, these were really quick notes. Legal services. What are we spending $250,000 proposed on for legal services? When in 2023, 2024, we were 18,000. And that jumped to 216,000, now we're 250,000. What are we doing as far as legal services that are justifying $250,000 on this small town? Let's see. Again, I do apologize. This was quick done about 20 minutes ago. Salaries jumping, $50,000 jump in salaries on it, just in administration. I don't know what it is, but what is capital outlay? Can someone answer that? No, I'm asking a question. You're not allowed to speak at all? Or?
Sure, go ahead and we'll respond to all the
Yeah,
questions.
What is a capital
We'll
outlay?
respond, if you please finish your comments
Okay.
and we'll respond to all the questions.
Okay. Again, salaries under Parks and Rec salaries going from 50,000 of 2024, 2025 to 140,000. What are we doing in Parks and Recs that are justifying a $90,000 increase in salaries? When it looks like here, from 2020 to 21, we had $16,000 salary, zero for the next 3 years, jumps to 50, and now 140,000 just on Parks and Rec salary. Additional programming, I don't know what that is, but that went from 6,000 to 20,000. I guess my time's up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to close public comment. May I have a motion to close the public comments?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Hines. Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
Sir, could you please step to the podium? The reason for that is the people
Yep.
that are live
Sure. Forgive me, one quick question. Just curious, the 1.8 million for the lot sales, I just want to know how realistic that figure was, given the size of the budget, given how big that figure is. If it doesn't happen, it has a significant negative impact on the budget.
We'll respond to that.
Thank
Okay, so we have a motion by Councilman Hines. Second?
Sure.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hall. Any discussions? How do you vote?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, public comments are closed, so what I would recommend is, we're going to go to council comments, but I'd like to direct some of the questions to our staff. Maybe some of them are easy to answer, some of them are more complicated to answer, right? So, Chuck, you want to go through some of the answers?
I can, Mayor. Thank you. Thank y'all for the questions. Great questions, by the way. First one I'd like to address real quick, because I heard a couple of times. When you're looking at the budget, it's probably an honest mistake. When you're looking, you saw $1 million increase in the police department. That's not accurate. That was year-to-date numbers. If you look at the actual 25-26 budget, it only went up about $220-some thousand for the increase from last fiscal year to the proposed fiscal year. So,
Just,
I'm sorry, say that one more time? I'm just saying it wasn't $1 million, sir. No, it's incorrect. From the 700,000 increase was from year-to-date numbers is what you're reading. The column before that would show last fiscal year.
okay.
Additional programming, the increase in additional programming was in Park and Rec. Throughout the year, we did several budget amendments. for the senior trips that they were taking. What this was, it was going ahead and allocating the funds, so when we get the revenue in, we don't have to go back and do the budget amendments. So the revenue, so the expenditure was already there. Park and Rec salaries did increase. If you look at old budgets, you'll see that part-time salaries were separated from full-time salaries. All that's been brought together now, which is why it shows the increase it does. The increase in governmental board was due to the increase in legal services, and the increase in legal services is due to litigation for several projects, Industrial Park, Drag Strip Road, the apartments that are across the street. And the increase in the administration department is the front desk person that takes the Onwassa payments, and that position is reimbursable by Onwassa. And there was another, and I apologize, there was a section somebody wanted to know about.
Capital outlay?
Capital outlay. So that's in any type of capital outlay purchase, whether we're purchasing a vehicle, a building. I think you said a $50,000. That was the building over at the shooting range for the police department.
Just something that Chuck mentioned is looking at some of the sheets that you have, looking at the year-to-date versus actually last year versus this projected year.
Mayor?
I can just answer one question. I'm sorry. All right, go ahead, Heather.
I just wanted to add that the capital outlay, capital improvements are generally those items that were listed on the presentation for each department. So like the zero-turn mowers, the building, the rifles, the in-car radios, those are all capital outlay.
Okay, I would like to, and Chief Longo can respond in a minute, but let me just make two comments. One is the lot sale that you mentioned. The lot sale, 1.8 million, is a lot sale that vacated by UPS, and we are in final negotiation with a new buyer that we should have the contract shortly, and we would announce it accordingly. So that is not repeatable, of course, because as Heather mentioned, that's the last lot sale. So it's not necessarily a projection, it's much more near actual. I want to talk, and Chief Longo can add to this. I want to talk about EMS. So the county EMS is responsible for transport. That's mandated by the county, and they are, right now, their strategic plan is to have 13 stations across the country. They have budgeted it, but of course, depends on what happens with the budget cycle. They may reduce the amount that they are planning to spend, but the idea is to have 13 EMS stations, and one of those stations is going to be in Holly Ridge. We are trying to find, some location for that. So yes, we have an ambulance sitting there, but we do not have a paramedic, which is a driver for the hospital, but a driver for the ambulance. Now, we worked with the volunteer fire department to have paramedics, and the paramedics can do everything other than transport. So we have had many occasions where paramedics have supported patients, and they can do everything. They can do various type of medical, and please jump in, Chief Longo, if I'm saying something wrong. But it's a great service. It's the only volunteer fire department that has paramedics in the area. So go ahead, Chief.
So the program was, I won't use the word quickly, but in less than a year's time, we obtained the credentialing to provide ALS services as an agency working under Onslow County. But yes, it was put together to supplement issues with services provided by the county. While we tried to stay away from the transporting side of it, that's a whole nother level of funding. And even in a perfect ambulance system, we would only gain about just over half of the revenue back. And what we're funding right now is nowhere near the amount that it would take to have a private ambulance service. And even if the town funded one ambulance, we couldn't guarantee that that ambulance would stay in town. And of course, it can only answer one call at a time. So we could not say no, to helping out in the county. So with how it was put together, while the town is footing a lot of the funding for the program, like, the payroll and the equipment, there is a lot of support that the county also funds for the program. Just for example, real quick, like the vehicle that the medic uses and is equipped was purchased by the county. All the fuel that the fire department used to its entirety is funded by the county for every call answered, even here in town. While it does look a little expensive on paper, even for the town to be funding, the medic program, the vast majority, and I don't have a specific number in front of me, but the vast majority of 911 calls for service, to include EMS, is within the city limits of the town. So, not that might not be a great answer, but that does kind of explain, where the funding comes from and goes to for that program specifically.
The county's EMS strategic plan has been loaded to the website when they presented it to us. Feel free to go look at it. It has a map. It has a heat map of the past calls, as well as it has the planned EMS stations. But again, that heavily depends on the current budget that they're going through, because they're going through the same thing as we are, looking at their budget and looking at the tax rate and looking at what are the alternatives.
So,
I'm just-
and funding for that program specifically, that support and structure for that program, may look a little different, in the next couple of years. We may be able to get some more from the county for it, so.
I want to address one thing about our police force, and the chief can add to this, but when I had done the statistics, we have pretty good rate of police officers for every 1,000 citizens. I think we are lower. Chief, am I not correct? We are. Please come to the mic.
Rural areas, or dependent upon where you look at on the averages, we're below national average, and we're still, I believe we're right around 2.3 or 2.4, and that's about the middle of North Carolina average for staff.
Right. Thank you, Chief. And all of these statistics usually are on the monthly council meeting. The monthly council data is available to everybody in terms of fire and paramedic calls, EMS calls, as well as police calls. They're all, every month we publish that for your viewing. I think I put some slides together when we had the town hall to talk about the target response time, the county's target response time in terms of EMS. What is the current levels, both night and day shift, as well as, I don't have it in front of me, but it's in the slides for the town hall. And then their target when they have the EMS station. I talked to EMS director last night, asked about the status of EMS. They are waiting for the budget to be approved. Therefore, they will get the allocation and they decide the priority of implementation. Now, there were questions regarding increases. Chuck or Heather, maybe you can. This increases of 40% or so. I think some of those numbers are quite high. So, do you want to do year over year discussion? Chuck?
Sorry, Mayor, I'm not following the question. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, they were talking about options and increase 42% and 46% for option 3, 42% and 21% for option 2. Those seem to be pretty high.
You're talking about property tax increase. I'd have to look at it.
Could you go back to that?
What's your question?
Sir, I'm sorry. If you could step to the podium, please.
Here, let me have the sheets.
Sure. If you looked at the proposed budget for 25-26 it looked like property taxes for current year and prior year was 2.72 million.
So you did have the increase when the reevaluation took place. There was the reevaluation was the reason for the increase in property tax.
Well, but if you look at your four options, so option one increases the property value by what, 379 million roughly. So your property tax revenue in option one is the 3.878. Well, if 25-26 was 2.72, that's a 42.6% increase. It's an increase in property tax revenue of 1.158 million over 25-26.
Right, so the one that went to that increase, that was using the new evaluation.
Right, that's option one, was a 42.6% increase. It's an increase of $1.158 million.
Okay.
Option two, where you use the current values, the 2022 values of 800,000 for property revenue, that was just a 2.7% increase. So, I mean, that's very palatable. Even if you had a 5% or 6% increase, I think that's very palatable for most people. Option one's 42.6%. Option three, one of the more recent ones that you came up with was property tax revenue, if I'm not mistaken, of 3.992 million. Compared to the 25-26 proposal, that's an increase of 1.272 million or 46.8%.
Right, so each of the values that you're looking at that are having the 40+% increase, that is with the new evaluation.
That is correct. Option three, well, no, option four also uses the 2022 numbers. That's where you went up to 37 cents.
Right, so the ones that went 34 and 35, the 34 cents and the 35 cents.
Was the revaluation.
Correct, the 36 and the 37 were not.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, option one was revaluation, option two is not. Option three is a revaluation at 35 cents. Option four is not, uses 2022 figures at the 37 cents. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I wrote down that property tax revenue projected under option four was $3,297,721, made up about 33% of the budget. That was 577,000 over 25-26. It's a 21.24% increase. So if my numbers are correct, and could be wrong, option one is increasing property tax revenue 42.6%. Option two is just 2.7. Option three is 46.8%, and option four is 21.24%.
Okay, option number four, which I'm specifically looking at, where it goes for 2.776 million in collections, that's only collections as of year to date, as of March. So if you finish up the year, then that's going to get you up higher, so it's not that large of an increase.
Yeah, I'm just looking at these are all off of the website. I'm looking at the 25-26 projected, which when you take a look at current year and prior year, the projection was property tax revenue prior year and current year of 2.72 million. So that's what I'm basing the numbers on. If that's incorrect, yeah, please let me know.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll have to take a look at that.
Sure.
Offline, if you're okay.
No, absolutely.
And Brian, you're always welcome to come by and sit with Chuck, and he has done that with many of the citizens, gone through the budget in detail in his office, okay, because there are different spreadsheets out there, and some of them we had, like in the past few months, we have had year to date.
Sure.
So there are some adjustments, but
This
feel
one is
free, in
proposed.
order to clear this up, feel free to stop by anytime. Chuck is always available
Oh, no,
to
no.
sit down to talk.
And I did speak with Chuck the other day, I think last week. He was very forthcoming with information, so it was great. And I understand the difficulty that you're in where you've got all these moving parts, and it's a matter of how do you make everything work? How do you get everybody what they need? The police radios to the fire medic, and I understand that. My concern as a taxpayer, and we actually declared residency here in January. We've owned a home since 2022. But if my numbers are correct, and again, the base number for 25-26 may be off, but there's only one scenario where you're looking at a modest increase in taxes for people. Everything else, you're looking at least 20 to 40+% increases in taxation. That's a big, big jump. So again, I understand if you're talking a single digit, I get it. Costs go up, there are expenses, there's needs, I get that. But to go up 20% or close to 50%, that seems just astronomical to me.
No, I completely respect this comment. The reason for the jump, and I believe we talked about this the other day, last year when we did the budget, during the same time last year, we added another department to the town, the fire department. So that we increased their contributions from about 100 to 150,000 up to over 600,000, and then you include Turkey Creek with another 60,000 there. So that was basically a whole nother department added to the town at around a tune of about $700,000. And we didn't do any tax increase last year. We took all that out of fund balance appropriation. The plan was to address the tax needs this year based off of the evaluation that was going to take place. So we deplenished, or not deplenished, but we took about a quarter of our reserves out last year to cover that difference. This year was going to be covered by the tax increase, so we didn't have to do another $1 million coverage or to cover another department. That way we're not using our fund balance, our savings account, to cover reoccurring expenses.
Oh, no, Chuck, I understand, and I don't envy your position because it's a very challenging role. You only have so much in savings, and you don't want to keep dipping into the fund balance and keep doing the appropriations, but on the same time, I don't think that the town should be bumping up the tax rate by 20, 30, 40, almost 50%. I think there's got to be some way to find a middle ground where you're not pulling 900,000 out of the savings every year because you're going to run out of money. So,
Brian, you're mentioning that we are increasing the tax rate by 40, you stated increased tax rate by 40%. We are not doing that.
Well, you are correct. If you're raising the tax rate from 35 cents to 34 cents, you're right. But the value that you are generating from taxes, the amount of revenue. So that one slide, it was correct, but it's very misleading. To say that taxes haven't increased or won't increase based on the projections, I think is incorrect. You can say we're going to keep the rate at 34 cents, but your option number one was increasing taxes by almost $1.3 million for property taxes alone. That doesn't include the motor vehicle tax. It doesn't. The slide is factual, but it's misleading because the potential is that there will be increased taxation. Yes.
Yeah, no, and I see what you're saying about the slide. The purpose of the slide wasn't to try to make everybody think we're always lowering taxes.
Oh, no.
That wasn't the purpose at all. If you look at other municipalities and governments around us, one thing it's a practice is where when you have a reevaluation year, you lower your taxes. Because with a higher valuation, you can go lower with your rate and it balances out. So the taxpayer is going to pay the exact same thing either way. We just were able to say we lowered taxes and the values went up. What Holly Ridge has done that most municipalities don't do is every single year we go through the evaluation of trying to find out how we can run as lean as possible to lower our tax rate, which is what the slide was supposed to show. Over the last 8 years, we've lowered the tax rate 7.5 cents. Now, what other towns and municipalities do is when they do their evaluations, which is once every 8 years or 4 years of your Onslow County, they'll hold tight on their rate every year. And then when they have their evaluation, then that gives them an excuse to lower. We didn't ride that extra revenue for 3 years or 7 years, depending on where you're talking about. We were lowering it every year to make sure we were running tight every year. That's the difference. That's why it looks like such a drastic increase, is because we were decreasing the entire time with the rate.
I hear you, and I think Holly Ridge is in an enviable position where the total property is now valued at $1.179 billion from $800 million, which is a huge increase. So, and again, I don't envy the position that you're in because you have all these expenses. I understand the fire medic, and Chief, thank you for doing that. I think it's at the county's fault that there isn't EMS here, and I appreciate what you have done to at least have something. Shame on the county with the population growth for not doing more, but that's a separate subject. But what bothers me is the potential percentage increase that all of us as taxpayers are going to have to take care of. Now, I'm fine, but there's a lot of people in here who can't afford a 20 or 30 or almost 50% increase in their property tax rates. It hurts them. And so that's my concern, is in my neighborhood, I've heard from people, where the homes are at an average value of what, $700,000, people are on fixed income. They're ex-military, they're teachers, they're on pensions, and home values have increased dramatically over the years, and with it, their taxes have gone up, their utility bills, everything has gone up, and if you raise their property taxes by 40-something%, well, some of these people are going to have to sell, which then potentially there's a flood of homes for sale and potentially lowers rates because you have all the supply on the market. So,
But again, Brian, you are stating 40% tax increase. First of all, as you know, this is going through the revaluation is going through the Raleigh
I understand.
litigation. Okay, so if the revaluation is in effect, yes, the average house prices or the average assessments have gone up by 30, 35, whatever percent, and then the tax rate has stayed the same. They do have to pay more taxes, of course, but last year, we didn't decide to increase the tax rate in order to keep the tax the same. But with the revaluation, if it stays, yes, the property prices are gonna go up, and as Heather mentioned, every penny is worth, with the new revaluation, about 117,000 additional revenue. So it's not, if the property values stay the same to the 2022 rates, then 1 penny of tax increase, which we are thinking, is not going to be significant impact on the taxpayers, as you are talking about 40 or 50% increase.
Well, your option 4, forgive me, your option 4 is looking at property tax revenue of almost $3.3 million. It's a $577,000 increase from the projections for 25-26. It's a 21.24% increase.
Yeah, so, yeah,
But
we are
again,
getting
I don't
into,
wanna hold everybody up.
we are accumulating those numbers for all the citizens, but at the same time, you say each individual homeowner, so there's a difference. The message at the high level, at the town level, is different at the individual level. So you are talking about 40, 50% increase, and then you talk about, the total numbers across town, but your concerns was each individual homeowner. So, we have to sort of separate that, because the message, it seems to me, again, I'm a homeowner, my property value went up by 50%. So I'm in the same shape, but at the town level is different than per individual level that you have been talking about. Yeah, and again, what I would recommend is you come down and sit
Absolutely.
down, talk with Chuck, because some of the messages are getting mixed up in terms of the numbers, at least in my opinion, but I don't know about anybody else. So, but the best way is to sit down and talk, and if we'll listen. The town manager and the CFO they're always willing to sit down and talk, and I don't think anybody has ever rejected them to come and speak, so.
Thank you.
But thank you for your comments. We are where we have some of the council comments. I know I've talked too much, so maybe we start with Councilman Barton. Any messages anything you want to talk about?
I'm quite new at this, so I appreciate your input, and we're doing the best we can with what we got at the moment. We've never been in this situation before regarding the state last-minute changes and all this. Thanks for coming out.
Yep.
Chief?
Yeah, thank y'all for coming and your interest in the budget. And if we didn't answer your questions, hopefully, if you keep pursuing your questions with us, we can help find something a little better of how to explain it. But thank you.
Yeah, again, I appreciate the involvement. I too hope that you can get some answers. We're not done, because we've still got probably another workshop to do. But we are listening, and we are trying to do the best we can to keep the taxes as low as we can. And also to do a secure budget. We have in the past pitched things off of the town, and it seemed like last year we were really pitching to do things for the town. And this whole idea of freezing the evaluations of land really did put a clinching it, but we have some stuff outstanding that we've promised the community that we would do. And at the end of the day, and I understand what you're talking about with your home budget, you throw away as much as you can, but at some point in time, you want to go home to the house and at least be able to turn the TV on. So you might keep the TV. So we're going to do the best we can to keep what we can, but we still need to move forward, and we still need to give the community things that they want so they enjoy living here. So that's all.
Councilman Hines?
I've always been advocate of the needs need to be covered before anything else, any wants. Even in this budget, we got wants that we could back up on and pay back into the needs. This year has been really trying. The state legislators are trying to do something about the evaluation, but they're not, I don't feel like they're looking at it the right way. My house is worth what I paid for it. All y'all's house is what you paid for it until you sell it, and then that becomes the value. They don't want to address the reevaluations. They want to come up and say, oh, we're going to hold your budget to where you don't know how to form your budget until we decide what we pass. That's where the biggest problem is with our legislators. They're not really trying to look at the problem of the reevaluations, which affected the 12 counties. That's where it needs to start at. But waiting until the very last minute to throw on us that now we're going to pass this bill, and now we're going to have to wait for the governor to sign it, and here we're right down to the very line. We've got to pass a budget. Unlike the state can carry on without a budget for, the last couple of years, but we have to pass it. So, it's the way I feel about what's going on with the reevaluations and all. And there's always places to cut. But I've always been an advocate of lowering it. I guess over the years, looking back, maybe we should have just left it there and tried to lower it, but I'm frugal with it. I feel like your money is just like mine. I'm going to be frugal with your money. And I thank y'all for being here tonight.
Thank you all for being here. You may not have gotten all your answers, but I always believe the best form of getting answers is to have open dialogue, open communication, transparent communication. And unfortunately, with everything that's going on, there's always the social media angle, and there's always some twisting of information. But we hope that we are always available. Town manager, financial manager, the council members are always available to sit down and talk and discuss issues frankly and openly and transparently. And we hope you enjoyed your meeting. We expected a lot more people here, but hopefully we have had some online people. But look forward to working with you, talking with you, have open communication, and have a great evening. Thanks for coming. You have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Hines. Second by Mayor Pro Tem Hall. Any discussions? How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes.